Good afternoon to everyone who has joined this event. Good afternoon to you, sir. Speaker, sir, Dr. S.K.
Good
Gupta, sir.
afternoon. Good afternoon.
So, I have been asked by my chairman, CMA Navneet Kumar Jain, sir, to conduct the meeting of today's as he is otherwise occupied. So, program, the event is on catalyzing cooperatives through effective governance, facilitative role of CMAs. So today's webinar will be starting. We will be starting through the institute's anthem, please.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय
मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।
Yes, sir. So just before starting the program, I am privileged to share a few points about our knowledge speaker, Dr. S.K. Gupta, sir. Dr. S.K. Gupta is a postgraduate in commerce. He is a gold medalist. He is a fellow member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, a fellow member of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India, and a PhD in corporate governance. He is having over 42 years of corporate experience in leadership positions with various public and private sector organizations in the domains of finance, costing, internal audit, sustainability, integrated reporting, and company secretarial functions. Currently, Dr. Gupta is the managing director of Registered Valuers Organization of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India. He is also Chief Executive Officer of ICMAI Social Auditors Organization and Chief Operating Officer of ICMAI International ADR Chamber. Dr. Gupta has chaired and addressed a large number of national and international seminars and conferences. He has been a visiting faculty at various leading business schools for over 3 decades. He is a member of various industry associations. Dr. Gupta is editor-in-chief for various professional journals. He is a prolific writer. He has written over 300 articles and research papers, which are regularly published in various professional, national, and international journals. He is currently guiding 5 PhD scholars. He has also conducted management development programs, both open programs and in-house for various companies. So, sir, today we are privileged to have you as a
Thank you
speaker.
so much. Thank you so much.
So,
Thank you.
sir, to you, please start your
Thank you.
program.
Thank
Please,
you.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the gracious introduction, madam. It is my pleasure to have been invited by Cooperative Development Board for delivering this session on catalyzing cooperative sector through effective governance, and we are more particularly going to talk about the facilitative role that CMA professionals can play in this very important sector and very important domain. Just give me a second. Let me share my presentation on the screen, please. Thank you. So I hope my presentation is visible on the screen. Catalyzing cooperatives through effective governance, facilitative role of CMAs. Cooperatives are unique organizations because they are created, structured by the people. They are of the people and they are for the people. That's the beauty of this particular structure, which we commonly refer to as a cooperative. A cooperative involves collaborative efforts, both in terms of funding as well as activities, including sharing of output, benefits, and surpluses arising out of the functioning of the cooperatives. That is how cooperatives function in the marketplace, and they have a huge catalytic role to play in the overall economic development and economic growth of the country. Let us try and compare and see how cooperatives are different from the corporates. Let me change my slide, please. So when we talk about corporates, enterprises are concerned with profit motive, as well as they have to compete in the marketplace. Whereas in the context of cooperatives, cooperative leaders, they need to understand and have knowledge of the philosophy of cooperatives, their own responsibilities as leaders, and also the role of the management in the cooperative organization, so that they can ensure effective governance in the functioning of the cooperative organization. In the corporate sector, representation is decided by the amount of capital put in by a member, a shareholder, whereas in the case of cooperatives, all members have equal rights and representation in decision making, irrespective of their shareholding. The leadership structure in cooperatives is a fusion and mix of professional managers and elected representatives. In the cooperative organization, we give priority to cooperative philosophy, working together for the benefit of all members, for the benefit of all those who are connected with the cooperative, whereas in the corporate sector, the priority and focus is on business philosophy. Corporates compete with each other for better market share, for supremacy, whereas cooperatives cooperate with each other for the development of overall community. These are some of the striking features of differences between a cooperative organization and a corporate, and that goes to define the boundaries and the architecture of governance, which is relevant and operative in cooperative sector, which is different from the one which operates in the normal corporate sector in the marketplace. What is a cooperative? A cooperative is an autonomous association, self-regulatory, self-controlled, controlled by its own members, who voluntarily join the organization to meet their common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations through a jointly owned and democratically controlled enterprise. It is a voluntary association of people who are bound to each other by a common thread of common economic, social, and cultural needs and aspirations. and they join hands together to organize, run, and democratically control a cooperative enterprise. So the cooperatives are founded on some basic elementary cooperative principles. The very first principle is that cooperatives are voluntary organizations, open to all persons who want to use the services of the corporates, who are willing to accept membership responsibilities of a cooperative without any discrimination with regard to gender, social, racial, political, or religious discrimination. The control of the cooperative organization is democratic. Organizations which are cooperative are controlled by their members who actively participate in framing of policies and making of various decisions. Men and women who serve as elected representatives, they are accountable to the organization. They have equal voting rights, and the cooperatives at all levels, local level, regional level, national level, they are always organized in a democratic manner. Cooperative organizations are autonomous self-help organizations controlled by their members. Whatever they have to do, whatever agreement they are required to enter into, either with other organizations or with the government or for the purpose of raising capital, they do it in a democratic manner by following a democratic decision-making process through their members for maintaining their cooperative autonomy. Members participate in the activities of the cooperative, and whatever surplus is generated, that is allocated in any of the following purposes, either used for development of the cooperative in future, or possibly for setting it aside as part of the reserve, or providing benefits to the members in proportion to their transactions with the cooperative and supporting other activities approved by the members. In the corporate sector, one corporate competes with the other corporate, whereas in the cooperative sector, there is cooperation among cooperatives. They cooperate with each other, working together through structures at different levels, local level, national level, regional level, international level. They work together with a view to providing for the best of the results and best of the benefits, best of the effectiveness and efficiency in the operations of the cooperative sector. Cooperative sectors work for community. They want sustainable development of communities through the work that they do, through the policies that they make, and through the decision making that happens in the cooperative sector. The basic objective and the basic purpose is caring for the community, concern for community, providing and developing communities on a sustainable basis. Cooperatives which are owned by the members, which are democratically managed, they play an important role in driving economic development, reducing poverty, getting people out of the poverty, getting people up from the bottom of the pyramid, and promoting social inclusion. In India, currently we have a GDP of about 3.8 trillion US dollars, and that puts us at the 5th largest economy of the world. Out of 195 countries, India is the fifth largest economy of the world. And very soon, maybe by 2030, India might become third largest economy of the world in terms of GDP. But there are many experts and economists who say GDP alone is not a true measure of the level of economic development of a country. We should also look at and consider whether development is happening in an inclusive manner or not. Inclusive development, bridging the gap between have and the have-nots, is the critical factor, and therefore many countries today have started looking at another yardstick, which is gross national happiness index. Of course, no one can be happy without having a reasonable level of economic subsistence, but nonetheless, money alone cannot make a person happy. The person becomes happy when he has access to resources, social resources, educational resources, medical resources, a good infrastructure. When all these things become available to people, they feel happy about that. And that's where the real well-being of the people of the country can be ensured. And it is in this area that cooperatives have a very, very critical role to play. Cooperatives help to reduce poverty, reduce inequality. They focus on short-term as well as long-term needs and aspirations of the people. And cooperative organizations contribute to broader macroeconomic stability and resilience of the economy. Cooperatives focus on triple bottom line, not only profit, but profit, people, and planet. That is, they look at economic, social, and environmental dimensions of this planet, and they are well positioned to address the challenges of climate change, development of skills amongst the youth in both rural and urban areas, employment, employability, women empowerment. They have a very, very critical role to play in all these aspects and dimensions of the functioning of an economy. When we say cooperatives have open and voluntary membership structure, what does it mean? It means that all those people who join hands to form a voluntary cooperative organization, they must be provided with relevant information about the functioning of the cooperative without any discrimination. You must maintain and update your membership database regularly. You must develop a agreed set of rights and responsibilities, including duties for members. You must establish a checklist for assessing and providing mandatory training programs for continuous skill development of the members. You must ensure representation of marginalized and vulnerable sections of society and must maintain political and religious neutrality. This is the basic spectrum and the landscape that makes sure that there is open and voluntary membership within a given cooperative organization. When we talk about democratic control, it means that you got to carefully look at qualifications of the people who are managing the cooperative as directors, their educational qualification, their experience in the relevant line, and their business participation. You must have clear delegation of authority between different individual board members. You must have diversity in the board. It's not only gender diversity that we are looking at in terms of male and female. There must be diversity in terms of representation being given to different class of people from different areas, different states, different backgrounds. Youth must also be given adequate representation in the cooperatives. You must enable employee union representatives to be on the boards, and there must be free flow of information amongst all the board members, whether it relates to notice for the meeting, agenda for the meeting, minutes of the meeting, MIS, Management Information System, and various other kinds of financial and non-financial reports. These must be provided to each and every member of the cooperative. When we talk about members' economic participation, we must enable members and non-members. We must provide them adequate opportunities to be able to invest in a cooperative society. There must be clear benefit structure as to when someone makes a contribution to a cooperative organization, what benefits, both financial and non-financial, will accrue to that particular person. There must be no differential treatment between a member user, a member who is a user of the services of corporate, or a member who is not using the services of the corporate, a non-member user, or a non-member non-user. There must be standard operating practices for managing various aspects of business operations of a cooperative. There must be effective parameters, benchmarks, performance measures established for cooperatives with a view to tracking the progress and performance of the cooperative organizations. And there must be a proper architecture for managing reserve and other funds of the cooperative organization. When we talk about autonomy and independence, there's nobody to regulate the functioning of the cooperatives. Then it is very, very essential that the cooperatives must have adequately strong and robust financial controls, investment appraisal processes. They must maintain proper books of records. They must maintain statutory books, registers. They must identify emerging business opportunities, of course, as well as challenges emerging in the marketplace so as to be effectively able to deal with them. And each cooperative organization must benchmark itself with other cooperative organizations, both national and international, because that is the way that you'll come to know what is the level of efficiency, effectiveness achieved by one particular cooperative only when you are able to benchmark yourself at national as well as international level. You must have a proper scheduled calendar process of conduct of board meetings, conduct of meetings of various committees of the board from time to time, conduct of the members' meetings, general body meetings, and also for the purpose of carrying out audit, statutory audit, as well as internal audit. And you must follow the law of the land in terms of ensuring legal compliances as per the scope, the structure, and the nature of business activities undertaken by a particular cooperative. So yes, you have autonomy and you have independence. There's no regulatory body regulating your affairs, but at the same time, there has to be self-control, self-governance, and that is where it is required that you must set up benchmarks for performance evaluation. You must have adequately strong financial control architecture and you must duly comply with all statutory and other legal compliances which are applicable on a particular cooperative. Member development is very, very important for the cooperatives. You need to enhance their capability and capacity from time to time. And for that matter, you must focus on specific sets of training programs with a view to bridging the literacy gap, with a view to developing people on the leadership channel, and also with the purpose of educating them on various social challenges, economic challenges that the country is facing, and to what extent the cooperative can play a vital role in development of the country in terms of economic progress. So we need to have training programs and capacity building programs for the cooperative members, which can be of technical nature, managerial skill development, and functional skill development. And that has to go right up to the top, up to the level of the professional managers, as well as the board of directors of the cooperatives. The world is changing. Every day we are looking at changes taking place in various dimensions and various aspects of economy, business, society, and environment. And therefore, it is very, very vital that all members of the cooperative, including the board of directors, must skill themselves adequately, must reskill themselves from time to time with a view to staying relevant and with a view to staying effective under all kinds of emerging scenarios and emerging situations. You must have a proper, well laid down recruitment policy, HR policy, service rules, including career progression, and also have a process of performance appraisal with adequate incentives for good performance by members and employees of the cooperative organization. Therefore, you must have a well chalked out plan of action for educating your members, not only members, but also the managers, also the board of directors, with a view to enabling them to enhance their skills from time to time so that they can be effective operating in the marketplace, and thus they are able to achieve the basic given objectives of the cooperative and benefit all its members as per the intention, as per the charter. Cooperation among cooperatives. Cooperatives don't compete with one another. They facilitate, support the functioning of the other cooperatives, and this requires collaborating with various cooperatives, jointly collaborating with them, joining hands with them, so as to build up scale of production, so as to build up scale of marketing, so as to develop intersectoral linkages, so as to develop and create value chain partners, so that everyone benefits in the whole process. And therefore, one of the key features of cooperatives is cooperation among cooperatives, not competition, but cooperation among cooperatives. And for that matter, some federations have been established, federal cooperative organizations at district level, state level, national level, which is a cohort or a group of various cooperatives who decide to come under one banner and form a larger father organization, commonly referred to as a federal cooperative organization for the benefit of all. You must also look at creating and participating in local, regional campaigns and cross-sector events. You must actively participate in the various activities of various cooperatives operating within the country, whatever domain, whatever area they may be working at. End of the day, the objective is the same. They're all trying to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots. They're trying to alleviate poverty. They're trying to do best benefits and provide best benefits for their members, and therefore there is need for cooperation amongst cooperatives in all dimensions and all areas. Concern for community, very important. Embracing diversity, equality, inclusion, ensuring access to healthcare, social care. Concern about employees. How well are the employees being taken care of who are working in a particular cooperative organization? How do you fulfill the aspirations of the youth? They have a lot of energy. They have a lot of enthusiasm to do something good for the country, to do something good for the society. It is up to the cooperatives to develop an architecture, develop a structure involving youths, to let them use their energy, enthusiasm in building up an equitable, inclusive, and diverse society so essential for economic development of the country. You also have to look at promoting peace and social justice, ultimately helping to build a civil society which is developed and based on principles of natural justice, morality, and ethics. And whatever activities you carry out as part of your concern for community, these also must be shared with the general public by way of some kind of a publication, maybe as part of including or inclusion of the same in annual report, or maybe a separate report for that matter, so that people get to know the activities and actions undertaken by a particular cooperative organization with a view to building up a better society for all of us tomorrow. There are different types of cooperatives operating across the world, and so in India as well. You have consumer cooperative societies. These are basically cooperative societies set up, organized jointly by some people coming together who buy certain goods in bulk from a basic source, so they are able to source it at cheaper price, and then they offer these goods at lower prices to their members, eliminating the need for a middleman. And this is a win-win situation for everyone. This is highly beneficial for the members who join and form a cooperative for their own benefit. Then we have producer cooperative society. These cooperative societies support small-scale producers, wherein production and distribution are handled by a producer cooperative society. Someone has 10 cows, someone has 20 cows, someone has 50 cows, very small numbers. But if some of these people get together and they're able to have a pool of maybe 1,000 cows together, maybe 2,000 cows together, and they form a producers cooperative society, to that extent, they are strengthened. They will now have power in their hands, both in terms of production as well as distribution, and therefore they'll be better off if they form a producer cooperative society rather than operating in the market as an individual. Then you have cooperative credit societies, which offer loans and financial assistance to their members from time to time at low rates of interest. Where the money will come from? The money will be contributed by the members of cooperative society only, regularly, every month, maybe every quarter, maybe every year, depending upon the charter. And from the corpus or the pool that is developed, those people who are in need of funds or financial assistance from time to time, they will be offered loans at low rates of interest, thus protecting the members from traditional money lenders who charge exorbitantly very high rate of interest. India is home to a unique movement called cooperatives. And cooperatives are not new to India. This has been there for times immemorial. Cooperatives play a very key role in rural India, and their activities have led to improvement in the standard of living of many people living in the villages. Out of 30 lakh cooperative societies in the world as a whole, almost about 8.5 lakhs are in India, with 29 crore members and about 13 crore people who are directly associated, connected with cooperatives. There are 91% villages in India, very high percentage, 91%, which have some or the other form of cooperative established, structured, and working within a particular village. Thus, it is evident success of the cooperatives in India is contributing very significantly to the growth and development of Indian economy. So some more types of cooperatives that we have. We also have marketing cooperative society. When some of the operators, they get together and they decide to jointly organize a cooperative society for marketing of their produce, they are able to have the muscle, they are able to have better pricing, they are able to have bargaining power, which protects them from the vulnerabilities of the market. Housing cooperative societies, where people forming a cooperative society are able to develop affordable housing for their members. One becomes a member by purchasing shares in a cooperative. The members own a share, which in turn give them a house to reside in, which is the model of housing cooperative societies mushrooming, existing all across India. Then you have cooperative farming societies. Because of fragmentation of land holding, because of the division of joint family system in India, the average size of holding with each farmer has come down to a very small number or small level, where the farming becomes uneconomic. Cooperative farming societies, they allow farmers to consolidate their holdings by way of joining hands with some other people who may be having small chunks of land, consolidating, pooling together not only land, but also livestock and also agricultural equipment, and thus improving efficiency of their agricultural operations, improving output of agriculture, and thus providing a better outcome or a better output for the farmers by way of cooperative farming societies. Then there are cooperative societies having a different structure nationwide. There are district central cooperative banks which operate at the district level. Their primary role is to dispense funds to primary cooperative banks. Then the next level is you have state cooperative banks which function as apex institutions within a particular state. These banks have a facilitative interaction with other cooperative banks and the Reserve Bank of India. And at the grassroots level, we have primary agricultural credit societies. These are situated either in rural or urban areas and directly interface with the local population for providing them banking services or credit services, offering loans and also offering deposit account opening services. Government of India in July 2021, by way of a notification, has announced the creation of a separate Ministry of Cooperation, which is currently headed by our Honorable Home Minister is also the Minister for Ministry of Cooperation. This has been done with a view to providing focus on cooperative sector, which has been identified as one of the dynamic lever and one of the catalytic tenet for the development of economy in a socially inclusive and equitable manner. The various objectives of the Ministry of Cooperation are: the ministry will be responsible for providing a separate administrative, legal, and policy framework for strengthening the cooperative movement in the country. Till now, the cooperatives have been operating on their own, and there was no regulatory mechanism, not really regulatory, but there was no coordinating mechanism whereby the entire cooperative movement could be provided a unified direction. This is what proposed to be done now through the setting up of the Ministry of Cooperation. It aims to deepen cooperatives as a truly people-based movement, reaching up to the grassroots. This will also improve ease of doing business for cooperatives and also enable development of multi-state cooperative societies. Why not? If the cooperative organizations of one state want to collaborate, join hands with cooperative organizations of other state, this will help build up scale. This will help improve the economic and financial standing of the corporates all over. And this is going to be possible by enabling development of multi-state cooperative societies. The ministry will also emphasize on strengthening and bringing about transparency in the functioning of the cooperatives, modernization of the cooperatives, computerization, use of IT, leveraging IT for the various functions of cooperative, and constantly working to develop cooperatives for meeting the challenges and development needs of every underprivileged area of the country. Sahkar se Samriddhi, growth through cooperation. That is what is the theme and the philosophy on which the Ministry of Cooperation is going to function. When we talk about governance of cooperative organizations, we have noted that cooperative organizations are jointly owned. They are controlled by their own members. And they have a kind of a relationship which is user relationship. Members would be either associated with a cooperative as workers, or as consumers, or maybe as suppliers. Different factors shape the governance structure of a cooperative. It all depends upon what kind of a cooperative organization is this. Is this a credit society or a housing cooperative? Is this a federation of cooperatives? And what are the types of governance structures being practiced within a given cooperative? What are the rules and policies? But then, end of the day, governance is all about structure, processes, and their dynamic interplay with regard to the functioning of any organization. What is the structure that you have? How do you activate that structure? By way of various policies and procedures, processes, and what is the interplay, and how does that help the cooperative organization to achieve its basic core objectives? So governance is all about people and performance, policies and processes, rules and regulations, and maybe, yes, a lot more. For the cooperative organization, the basic model is to look at this Venn diagram: to be, to do, to relate. To be means you must have a purpose of existence, you must have a vision, and you must have certain value system and bylaws which regulate the conduct of members and their aspirations. When it comes to do, what is that you propose to do within a given particular domain of activity for the benefit of members, for the benefit of society, and for the ultimate benefit of the country as a whole? And then to relate, that's where how does one cooperative relate with other cooperatives in the marketplace? Cooperation among cooperatives, that is the mantra and the philosophy in the cooperative sector. How do you relate yourself not only with other cooperatives, but also with the community as a whole, with the various authorities, with the various suppliers, with the various stakeholders, the buyers, and the civil society? To be, to do, and to relate. This decides and sets up a basic fabric of the governance architecture that cooperative has to develop so as to be able to achieve the objectives for which the cooperative organization has been set up. As businesses are driven by values, not just profit, cooperatives share internationally agreed principles and act together to build a better world through cooperation. Therefore, putting fairness in all actions, equality, equitable, natural and social justice should be at the heart of the cooperative enterprises, which allows people to work together for creating sustainable enterprises that generate long-term jobs and prosperity. There are some very, very basic, deep-rooted values of cooperation. Self-help means persons should help themselves by coming together and should not depend on others beyond the cooperative. Autonomous, that's why it said autonomous, self-help. Within a particular group, you develop such cooperation, you develop such competency that you don't have to look anywhere outside the group. Self-responsibility. You have to assume responsibility for forming a cooperative, for running a cooperative, for managing a cooperative, and for the success of the cooperative. No one else is going to do that. Self-responsibility. The members themselves have the responsibility of setting up, running, and sustaining a cooperative organization. Democracy is at the root and heart of a cooperative organization. Each member has an equal opportunity to decide how the cooperative should be run. Cooperative organization is of the people, by the people, for the people. And people here means members, who all are members of the cooperative organization. They have to act and function in a most democratic manner. Equality. All members have equal rights. Right to participate in decision making, right to participate in various activities, right to information, right to be heard. Equality. Equity. A member must also be rewarded commensurate to his participation or contribution in the functioning of the cooperative. That's the basic tenet and principle of equity. Solidarity. Cooperatives stand together All cooperative organizations, they stand together for the development of the cooperative movement as a whole, which then snowballs, having cascading effect down the line in the economy, improving the lot of the people who are underserved, underprivileged, poor. It helps those people by and through the value of solidarity in a cooperative organization. So governance is very, very essential for a cooperative organization, which basically means ensuring a proper balance in the functioning of the members' assembly, that is general body of the members, the board of directors. Some of the cooperative organizations also have a supervisory board when they have a two-tier board structure. The management, the paid employees of cooperative, there must be proper balance and cooperation amongst all these entities, aspects of the cooperatives. Governance must be such that it helps to meet the stakeholders' expectations. Today, the mantra for success is you must create value for your stakeholders. You must preserve that value and also enhance that value going forward on a sustainable basis. And that's where governance plays a very, very vital and key role. You must earn the trust of the stakeholders. Members have gotten together. They've contributed money. They're working together. They have built up a cooperative organization. You must earn the trust of all your members and the stakeholders and become a good corporate citizen, doing good for the country. You must ensure transparency in the entire functioning of the cooperative organization. And you must strike a very, very fine balance between economic performance and social responsibility. That is why we talk about triple bottom line. You're not only concerned with generating surplus, but at the same time, also looking at protecting the environment, protecting the society, helping this planet becoming a better place to live in for all of us. There are lots of risks that every organization faces, including cooperative organizations. You must have the ability to be able to identify the risks associated with a cooperative organization, and you must also develop appropriate strategies and policies to be able to manage and mitigate those risks. Well, yes, you have to attract, motivate, retain members, and create a prosperous operating environment for continued improved performance of the cooperative. All these are various dimensions of governance which will help a cooperative organization to achieve and attain its given basic objectives. So what are the tenets of governance? Well, one size doesn't fit all. You can't have 10 set of principles of governance which you may say will apply in all types of organization. No. But some things are common. Ethical conduct. You must have a code of conduct regulating, providing guidance with regard to conduct of the members of the cooperative organization. But only having a code of conduct would probably be the first step. It has to move beyond that. Members of the cooperative must start living the code of conduct. It must become part of their DNA. They must carefully conduct the various activities, affairs of the cooperative, including interface amongst the members in a very, very fair and equitable manner. And they must reflect that in their conduct. That is where I say you got to live the code of conduct. There has to be appropriate transparency in the functioning of the corporates, with all material information must be shared with all the members of the cooperatives. Actions and decisions of the cooperatives must be fair. Should not benefit one set of people, one set of members. They should be fair all across. Accountability, yes. You are accountable to the body of stakeholders or the members of the particular cooperative for whatever happens in the cooperative organization. You are accountable to them. And you must ensure equity. These are some of the basic tenets or the basic principles of governance which are very, very relevant and critical for a cooperative organization. But yes, there are situational variables impacting cooperative governance. Cooperatives are democratically governed. Therefore, rather than having one set of governance principles, the governance principles, actions, facets are probably going to vary across different cooperatives depending upon the purpose of the enterprise, depending upon the size of the cooperative organization, and also the stage in the life cycle. Where are they? Are they at the startup level, or they are in the growth phase, or they have achieved maturity, or they are in the decline phase? Depending upon the stage in the life cycle, the governance principles and tools will be different. What kind of organizational culture you have? Culture varies from organization to organization. And then also, what are the regulatory and competitive pressures in a particular industry? These factors have to be carefully taken into account while deriving and looking at what kind of governance architecture would be relevant and most effective in a particular given cooperative enterprise. Well, governance, Indian Dharma books, Indian holy books talk about governance in the Indian context from ancient times, and this has huge relevance for the cooperative organizations. In our Dharma books, we talk about Lok Sangraya, public good, not good for a particular set of people, but doing good for the public as a whole, doing good for the greatest possible number of stakeholders. So in cooperatives, you do good for the members of that particular cooperative. This principle is very well connected with the functioning of the cooperatives in India. Dhanam, you have to create wealth. But how? Creation of wealth through competence, through productivity, through better efficiency, effectiveness, better input-output ratio. Swatantriya is all about autonomy and independence. Cooperatives are autonomous and independent organizations. But then at the same time, you have to be responsible. If not to anyone outside, you got to be responsible for all your actions, all your members. Going beyond that, you got to be responsible for yourself. Self-control. You are self-master, but you must control yourself. Swatantriya. Vishwas. People must trust you. Members of the cooperative, they must trust that the basic purpose for which the cooperative was established is actually operating in that particular sense. You must develop the sense of trusteeship and the sense of trust amongst the various members. Dharma Yuddha. In cooperative organizations, there's no competition. Actually, there is cooperation among different cooperatives, and therefore you must all join hands together, look at each other, look at learning from each other's best practices, and thus slowly and growing forward, improve your own performance. Look at Vividhata. Variety, innovation is the key. Develop new products, develop new ways of doing things, develop new ways of improving performance of your organization. Vividata. So these are core principles of governance enshrined in our holy Dharma books since ancient times. And what we find is that these are very, very highly relevant for the cooperative organizations even today. The key pillars of cooperative governance are team spirit. All people have gotten together to join hands for a particular purpose, and for that they have formed a cooperative organization. They have decided a particular set of principles, do's and don'ts. Now what is required is they must successfully work together to achieve the common purpose, and that will happen only when they function as a well galvanized team. Team spirit. Mistakes may happen, things may go wrong, but there's no point castigating, criticizing someone else for that. All the members must work together in the spirit of cooperation and develop a spirit de corps. And that's what is commonly known as team spirit. Accountability. You may be independent, yes, you may be autonomous, but you got to make sure that you're accountable for your actions to yourself, to other members of the cooperative organization. Accountability should never be forgotten. Strategic leadership. For every organization to grow, there is a requirement of strategic leadership, which will provide the right vision, the direction, the guidance, in which direction the organization has to move. Look for strategic leadership, either from the board or from professional managers, but strategic leadership is the key for ensuring that the cooperative organization moves forward in the direction of achieving its basic vision. And democratic principles should never be sacrificed in cooperative organizations. They must be successfully practiced, protected, promoted, perpetuated. Democratic principles must be followed through and through in a cooperative organization, because this is one of the basic fabric of the architecture of cooperative organization. These should be always practiced, protected, promoted, and perpetuated. So when we look at the governance system for a cooperative, it essentially comprises of three levels. What is the structure of a cooperative organization? What are the processes being followed? And what is the dynamics? That means what is the impact of external forces as well as internal forces operating on the functioning of the cooperative? The structure is decided in terms of what kind of ownership you have, what kind of organization you have created, what kind of management structure you have built up, what kind of rules and policies have been formalized, and how do you ensure democratic functioning and participation of various members in the activities of the cooperatives. When it comes to processes, what are the channels of communication, both internally and externally? What are the channels of communication amongst the various members from the cooperative to the outside world? How do you monitor, evaluate, and control the activities of the cooperative? And the dynamics is the functioning of every organization, whether it's a corporate or a cooperative, is impacted by the environment within which it operates. And thus, The external forces, economic, social, environmental, external forces will definitely have some impact on the functioning of a cooperative organization. How do you propose to deal with these forces is a very, very important aspect of the governance system for a cooperative. Then, of course, there are churnings happening within the cooperative. There are going to be certain internal factors also which will require to be managed from time to time with a view to ensuring that the cooperative stays on track in terms of its performance and achievement of the basic vision and the objectives of the organization. So now let's talk about what is required to be done to ensure effective governance in a cooperative organization. Let's start with the board members. There must be an induction or education program for the new members of the board. Someone who joins the board of a cooperative organization, he may not have the same background as the basic objective or functioning of the particular cooperative. He may come from a different background altogether. Therefore, there is need for a structured, formalized induction education program set to bring them on board so that they can become effective as the members of the board of a particular cooperative. There must be a board charter which must lay down and specify clear rules, how the board is going to function, how the board is going to take various decisions. The board is as effective as the information which is put up to the board, and therefore that must be ensured that information received by the members of the board must be timely, must be reliable, must be credible. On the other hand, the board members also are expected to spend some time, reasonably adequate time to read the information presented for their consideration. They must come well prepared, well read for the board meeting. Of course, board members must have the right to ask for any additional information if they require by making a request to the chairperson or the chairman of the board, but they must have the right to ask for additional information more than beyond what is already provided to them. They must have that power, they must have that freedom to be able to ask for additional information for their own consumption or for appropriate decision making. The various issues to be discussed must be discussed thoroughly. There must be proper discussion in the meetings of the board of directors of cooperative organizations. The board meetings should focus on strategic issues and also routine operation, but more focus should be on vision, strategic issues of the cooperative organization. Board members should have a demanding stance. They should ask questions wherever they are not satisfied, wherever they are not clear, wherever they think that they need to engage in more discussion. They should be forthcoming, they should be demanding, and they must have a proactive stance. Amongst the board members, there must be respect and mutual trust. Board members should have respectful relationship with one another. Decisions of the board of cooperative organization should be taken on the basis of consensus. There can be healthy discussion. In the discussion, there may be some people not agreeing to a particular viewpoint, but end of the day, it is suggested that decisions should be based upon consensus as far as possible. And the board members should avoid conflict of interest. If there is something which is going to impact or which is affecting their personal interest, They are in some way or the other connected with a particular transaction, either directly or through their relatives. They must disclose to the board members and they must avoid getting into those kind of transactions. Board members should avoid conflict of interest. So in short, imperatives for a director of a cooperative organization: get to know the cooperative, have full knowledge about its objectives, vision, purpose. Adequate time should be devoted by the director to the job. You must participate in the various meetings and activities of the cooperative. And you must honor the position that has been bestowed upon you. That if a director of a cooperative organization, you must honor that particular position by way of your actions, adequate time that you are devoting, and also by way of your contributions in the furtherance of the objectives of the cooperative organization. The second tier in the governance system is the management. You have directors and then you have professional managers. Professional managers, those people who are inducted, appointed in a cooperative organization, they must have specialized knowledge of the particular sector. That will be really, really helpful. That will make them more effective and more efficient. They must have relevant professional experience in the particular sector. Having soiled their hands will give them a very, very solid understanding of the operation of a particular sector. Professional managers must have good judgment and decision-making abilities. They must have knowledge of the sector's characteristics. And then this is a common thing which goes all across the organization: honesty and integrity. Let me tell you, honesty is not only about money matters. Normally we think honesty is all about money matters only, but no. Honesty is beyond money matters. Honesty of thought, honesty of commitment, honesty of action is all part of honesty and integrity, which is very, very essential for all professional managers operating in the cooperative organizations. Then let's come to the members level. What are their responsibilities? How should they function with a view to ensuring good governance for the cooperative organization? Members of the cooperative, they must be properly informed about their meetings by way of proper notice, proper agenda, so that they can participate with full preparation and contribute in the deliberations of the general body meeting. The members must also have the power to able to propose certain new items. It is not that the agenda may be set by certain set of people and then rest people can't add any other further item. Each member must have the power to propose an additional agenda item to be included for discussion in the cooperative general body meeting. Decisions in the general body meeting should be taken by considering all opinions of all the participants after adequate debate and discussion, by looking at various points of view, various dimensions, various aspects, so that the decision is holistic and is beneficial for the members of the cooperative. Members should be allowed to vote either individually, personally, or by way of a proxy, by way of a delegation. Members of the assembly should have the right to record their interventions and votes in the minutes of the assembly. I mean, these are basic tenets of governance which should be followed by the cooperative organization at the level of the members meeting or the general body meeting of the members of the cooperative organization. Please ensure that all times members must have the right to participate in general body meetings. They must have the right to express their views without any hesitation. They must have the right to exercise their voting rights. They must also have the right to contest for election. They must have right to seek further information if they require. And they must also have the right to avail services provided by the cooperative, because they are the members. As members, they are entitled to avail certain services which are provided by the cooperative. General guidelines regarding conduct of meetings, but which is a key aspect of governance. The meeting must be planned appropriately. The meeting must be conducted properly. And the follow-up on the meeting in terms of minutes, and the follow-up should also happen in an effective manner. So planning the meeting starts with agenda, duration, who should be invited, what information should be shared, conduct of meeting, how do you open the meeting, how do you proceed with the discussion in the meeting, how do you agree, close a particular matter, and how do you close a meeting, and then how the minutes are prepared, how follow-up is done, how evaluation is undertaken with regard to checking the effectiveness of the meeting. Another important aspect of governance for cooperatives is having an internal control mechanism, which is a key governance lever. You must have a set of principles, procedures, and practices to ensure effectiveness and efficiency of operations of the cooperative organization. You must have internal control mechanism to ensure credibility and reliability of financial information. How do I know the information which is put up in the board, is that credible, reliable, truthful or not? How do I know that? There must be an inbuilt internal control mechanism to ensure that. Protection of assets of the cooperative organization, very important. You must have adequate mechanism to ensure that all the assets of the cooperative organizations are duly and adequately protected. And you must comply with the law of the land. You must comply with, cooperative organization must comply with all the applicable laws and regulation, and internal control should be such that it provides red flags, it provides guidance, it provides schedules when a particular compliance is required to be made, so that there is no default on the part of the cooperative organization and it is fully compliant with all applicable laws and regulations. So what is the architecture of an effective corporate governance mechanism for a cooperative organization? Autonomous, independent, member-driven, but with accountability. It must have a vision. Organization must function in a transparent manner. There must be continuous monitoring and direction of cooperative activities towards meeting its objectives. It must be alive to social needs. Are we really helping the society? Is society improving because of the actions, activities of the cooperative? You must be alive to market practices. And of course, you have to be alive to technological innovations. You have to leverage technology wherever possible so as to improve your effectiveness and efficiency going forward. You must focus on environmental issues, social issues, governance issues. You must always be open for new ideas, innovation. Conflicts are bound to arise from time to time. Whenever there are people working together, conflicts are natural. But how do you handle a conflict appropriately is what ultimately matters with regard to success of an organization. Ensure cooperative leadership is subservient to the member shareholders. Recognize and respect the role of professional managers. Skill building, reskilling is very important. Ensure education and training to members and employees of the cooperative organization on an ongoing basis. Cooperatives must be efficient in order to guarantee their sustainability. An inefficient organization may not be sustainable. Because we want cooperative organizations to be set up and sustain in the market for a long period of time, they need to be efficient. And for becoming efficient, they should strengthen their values and principles. They must improve upon their governance architecture. They must improve their operations to become profitable. They must carefully look at building up and developing new skills and innovations in their area of operation. End of the day, it is the people who run the organization who help you achieve the objectives of the organization, and therefore promoting training and development of human resources is one of the key aspects to be carefully looked at by the cooperative organizations. Grow in accordance with needs of society and the market demand. Your growth pattern or the scale of operations or the pace of growth should be such that it should be in accordance with, commensurate with the needs of the society, as well as what is the market looking at and what is the market demanding at a given point of time. You have to always take into consideration these two factors while working out your growth plan and the activities of the cooperative organization. Cooperatives have a very, very important role to play in Indian economy. We have celebrated Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 75 years of India's economic independence, where we have achieved huge, significant progress in various sectors. Now we are looking at next 25 years as Amrit Kal, culminating into 100 years of India's political independence in 2047. And the key to our further development growth is going to be not only increase in our GDP number, not only growing our GDP from 3.8 to 5 trillion to 10 trillion and beyond. I think what is most critical at this point of time is inclusive growth. Everyone should participate in the growth process. Growth should touch everyone's life. Well-being of the human beings, well-being of the people of the country is going to be the core. And in that context, cooperatives have a very, very important role to play in the coming period, the coming era of Amrit Kal and beyond. And friends, this is where we CMAs have a very, very critical facilitative role that we can play in the development of the cooperative sector. Let me share some of the areas where we CMAs have a very, very key role to play in the cooperative sector. First is the accounting processes followed by most of the cooperative organizations are not standardized. How do you treat a revenue item? How do you treat a capex? How do you deal with budgeting? How do you deal with different heads of accounts? I think there are dissimilar practices being followed all across. I think we have a role to play here by providing guidance for standardizing the accounting process across all cooperatives so that the financial statements prepared should reflect accurate information, and it should also enable comparing the performance of one cooperative with that of the other, which will be possible only if the accounting processes are standardized all across different cooperatives. So this is one area where we CMA professionals have a very, very critical role to play. Second is with regard to awareness about statutory compliances. Most of the cooperatives are not careful, not knowledgeable enough, not aware about the various statutory compliances that they are supposed to do, and they end up paying huge penalty. As a CMA professional, we have a responsibility of educating the cooperatives, hand-holding with them, providing them a check chart, helping them out comply with various compliances so that they are on the right side of the law and they focus mainly on their core function or core activity. At the same time, don't make any mistake in terms of non-compliance with any statutory requirement, statutory compliance. I think the key challenge for cooperative organizations is with regard to management of working capital, management of receivables, and inventory management. And this is one area where the CMA professionals can play a very, very important role in building up competence and ensuring better management of working capital, receivables, and inventory management for the cooperatives. They don't have knowledge, adequate knowledge, how to work out different ratios, how to interpret those different ratios, how to make sure that the inventory is just about right, not over inventory, neither under inventory level. How do you manage your working capital in a most effective manner so that there is a balance between investment and the liquidity? How do you manage your stock so that the stock doesn't get rotten, it doesn't get pilfered, destroyed? There must be proper inventory policy, and that's where we CMA professionals again have a very, very key role to play. And then we should also tell the cooperatives, guide the cooperatives with regard to leveraging IT, information technology tools, maybe starting with some kind of a customized software and going forward, maybe why not use of AI to some extent wherever applicable so that they are able to improve upon efficiency of their operations and thus become more profitable. They are able to contribute to society more. They are able to provide better services to their members. That is what is possible in case we can tell them, we can educate them with regard to applicability of various IT tools which are available and which are being used in the corporate sector. These should be possible to be used in the cooperative sector also. That's where we need to guide the cooperatives as CMA professionals. In order to allow cooperatives and in order to ensure that the cooperatives are able to develop and realize their full potential, it is important to create awareness and build capacities through education and training. One area where we CMA professionals have a role to play, conduct training programs for the cooperatives, assisting them in developing business plans, assisting them, guiding them how to improve productivity, how to access new markets, how to access the funds, develop an appropriate, robust financial management system, provide technical know-how for recruiting competent management professionals, and encourage them to self-regulate them in order to meet the various statutory and legal requirements. So training of the cooperatives is one area where we CMAs have a very important role to play, guiding them with regard to development of business plans, improving productivity, how to access a new market, how to access funds for their requirements, how to build up capacity by training and self-regulation, developing a robust architecture of compliance management system so that there is no default on the part of the corporates with regard to compliances which are of statutory and legal nature. Another area where we CMAs can contribute is redrafting of bylaws. Some of the cooperative businesses had been set up long back, and ever since then they haven't looked at, they haven't reviewed, they haven't redrafted their bylaws, which are not in sync with the requirements of the current times. So this is where we can provide them professional assistance in review of the bylaws, rewriting of the bylaws, which are in line with the current times, which are in line with the current realities of the marketplace economy, and this is where CMAs can play a very important role in supporting the cooperatives. In some of the states, The financial audit of cooperative societies, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Himachal Pradesh, West Bengal, CMAs have been allowed, permitted to conduct financial audit. There are notifications available on the website. You can check out. There are opportunities available for conducting financial audit of cooperative societies in some of the states. And then there's also at times requirement of conducting special audit, cost audit and performance audit of cooperatives under West Bengal, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Punjab and Delhi and some other states for that matter. Please check out the relevant websites and find out professional opportunities available for conduct of cost audit and performance audit in some of these key states. As a cost accountant, as a cost and management accountant, we need to demonstrate exemplary skills at the time of carrying out audit, because we CMAs don't only look at the numbers, we don't only try to tally the balance sheet, we try to go behind the numbers, beyond the numbers, trying to find out the reason for a particular number, interpret it, and then come out with its impact analysis. This is a great strength and great skill that we possess, and therefore financial audit or any other audit that we conduct, it involves visionary approach where we have to identify areas of improvement. We have to identify the level of efficiency currently achieved by the organization and how it can be improved further by giving suggestions. Misappropriation needs to be identified, protecting the interests of the members. We need to do audit in such a manner to identify that whether the particular cooperative is protecting the interests of its members or not. And we need to focus more on the functional areas of the society to see how we can add value to the services that are being rendered by a cooperative organization. Cooperative organizations are always looking for constructive suggestions, and they're in need of constructive solutions to address a lot of issues that they are facing. And this is where an opportunity exists for the CMA professionals to be able to provide them that kind of hand-holding support, professional support with a view to building up a robust architecture of cooperative organizations in the country for achieving the objective of building up a Bharat which is Vikasit Bharat, Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas, and a Bharat which is based upon the philosophy of inclusive growth, not leaving anyone behind, taking everyone together in the journey of economic growth and economic development. We CMAs have a role to play, very, very important role to play in the cooperative sector. I would exhort all the members of CMA fraternity to carefully look at this new emerging professional opportunity and contribute in this important area, which will also be a kind of a national service before and besides providing them new professional opportunity to be able to do good for their own professional career and life. So thank you very much. That's where I close my presentation. I'm open for a few questions if there are any. But that's where I close my presentation. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity of sharing my perspectives on professionalization, governance of cooperative sector, and the role of CMAs in this particular domain. Thank you so much. Any observations, any views, any questions? The floor is open, please.
Sir, that was a nice discussion. We have learned a lot. For me, what I have noted a little bit, that need for cooperation among cooperatives is a need for cooperation among cooperatives are required in all dimensions for good governance of cooperative sector. That is very uniquely said.
Thank you.
Next is for aspirations of the youth. Cooperative should develop the architecture. Nicely said, sir. And to be late. I have learned also through these deliberations to be, to do, and to relate. To Venn diagram, what you have presented, that is unique in presentation, and I hope all the viewers have learned a lot. All the viewers have learned a lot.
Thank you so much, madam.
One more thing, sir. inclusive growth. For inclusive growth, what you have said, it is need of the hour, because our Prime Minister as also Home Minister in every time they are telling for Viksit Bharat, for inclusive growth is very much required, and we have learned a lot, and we should try to as a fraternity, we should try to implement the things further. That much is committed.
Yes.
So,
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And with due respect and everything, myself, Dr. Sumita Chakraborty, Secretary of the Cooperative Development Board, is asking anybody if they are having any questions. Otherwise, we will close this webinar. If anybody is having anything, they may ask through. One member has asked, please say the role of CMAs in cooperatives working. I think Sir have in detail, Sir has discussed about this role of CMAs, CMA fraternities, and there are no other questions so far I have seen. And then all the members are busy in listening to you. That was such a nice deliberation, Sir.
So much.
So thanks a lot, Sir.
Thank you.
With regards, I am closing this.
Thank you.